Welcome to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. I'm Dr. April Moreno, autoimmune wellness researcher and professional helping women around the world to live their best possible lives despite the autoimmune condition. Listen in as we speak on various topics about the autoimmune journey and interview amazing and inspiring women who are living and thriving despite their autoimmune condition. Let's get started. Hello, Sisterhood. Welcome to another episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. We are at episode number 47 today, and we are here to continue talking about the subject of love and autoimmune conditions, living and loving while autoimmune. In this episode, we're continuing on the topic of love and caregiving and relationships despite autoimmune living, despite the diagnosis. In the last episode, we spoke to my husband, and he was able to share his story and his experience of what it was like for him to deal with the new diagnosis and to begin to hear all this new autoimmune vocabulary and all these new symptoms and issues that his wife was experiencing. So it was a huge change of lifestyle. It was a new way of living, not only for me, but also for my spouse. And in that episode 46, he shared his story. We're going to be continuing that theme of relationships and autoimmune living. In this episode, we are going to speak to Tracy Todd, who will be sharing her experience of how she met and found love despite the autoimmune condition. It's a wonderful story, and I hope you'll enjoy it. I know I enjoyed interviewing her and hearing this amazing story as well. So we are still here in the month of February. It's going by pretty quickly, despite this being a leap year month. It's going well for you. It's been pretty good here. I've started yoga teacher training, and I'm learning how to manage my energy levels because the classes are at night, and I'm asleep really early at night. I go to bed really early. I'm not a night owl. And this class is basically asking me to rearrange my schedule in order to continue to be part of this commitment of teacher training. And it's for a bigger purpose and a bigger vision anyway. And all of that moving forward to thinking about the next episode, the final episode for February, also about love and autoimmunity, but it's about the love that we give to others and how we can continue to be there for other people as well. And that's going to be in the next episode. I've just done this web search, and anything about love and caring for people with autoimmune conditions, the search results are basically about people caring for us. And that's beautiful, and we need it. But also for life purpose and for us to have a reason to live, I believe that we want to be needed as well. And so how can we continue to serve out there and be of service and guidance and help and inspiration and love and service to the world as well is going to be in the next episode. So let's go ahead and continue now with episode number 47 on relationships and autoimmune living, speaking with the amazing Tracy Todd. In this month of February, we were talking about the subject of love and relationships despite the autoimmune condition. So today we welcome Tracy Todd, who's here to share her autoimmune story with us, her autoimmune love story with us, how she's been able to live and thrive with a love relationship despite the autoimmune diagnosis. So welcome, Tracy.
Hello. Good to be here.
Welcome. Please share some information about you.
Well, my name is Tracy Todd, and I reside in Northern California with my husband of 32 years. As I often start my medical story, I indicate that I began to experience neurological challenges at the early age of 12. And they weren't defined as autoimmune at the time. Most specifically, they were acute migraines with aura. Nonetheless, that was a big deal back in the 70s and 80s. I was, as I said, living with migraines with aura for a decade or so, and then ultimately received my diagnosis of multiple sclerosis in the fall of 2002.
How has that been going over the years? How have you been feeling? How have you been managing?
Well, I can honestly say that the fact that I had medical challenges and specifically neurological autoimmune challenges early on in life somewhat set the stage for me to learn very early on that it was going to be vital that I just live my best possible life despite anything else that was going on. And so, as I said, even as an adolescent, 17 years old, spending my birthday in the hospital, rather than, oh, woe is me, I remember right now sneaking in a boombox radio with my high school girlfriends at the time and having myself a little party. My boyfriend at the time, who is still my husband of this day, he was right there along with the crowd celebrating despite the circumstance. And that's pretty much the theme that I've carried with me throughout my life.
I love hearing this story. This fits perfectly with the spirit of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. The fact that you were in the hospital as a teenager, you were celebrating life, celebrating your friendships, celebrating time, and listening to music in the hospital room. Instead of being upset about it and feeling miserable, you chose to celebrate and move forward. And your future husband was in that room with you, celebrating with you. That is amazing. That is beautiful.
Yes, it was. And I look back at that fondly to this day.
Tell us a little bit more about your love story. How has it grown over the years? How did all of this come about?
Well, as I said, we were high school sweethearts. He was actually my prom date, and it was kind of evident at the time that we were soulmates. But like anything, people had to live their lives. He enrolled in the service. He left for a period of about 3 to 4 years, and it was good because it gave him an opportunity to see the world, and it gave me an opportunity to grow up, experience my life in the San Francisco Bay Area for myself, which was a great thing. When we reconnected, I was in my early 20s or so, and we just kind of got back together and picked up where things had left off. I remember casually in September of 1987, just casually strolling through the mall, and it wasn't anything romantic, but he just casually said, hey, let's go in there and pick out a ring. And I was like, oh, a ring? Why? He said, well, let's get married. And I thought to myself initially, that wasn't the whole down on bended knee thing, but nonetheless, I said yes. And clearly 32 years later, it was the right thing to do. Backing up a little bit. So yes, married in 1987 and had 2 children, a little boy first, David Jordan, and then my daughter, Imani Marie. And life was cruising along. And then my daughter was 4 months old and I was at work. And I started to experience what was an excruciatingly painful headache. It was frightening, April. It was so painful that I thought it was like an aneurysm, things you see on TV or in the movies or what have you. And I remember contacting my husband and just telling him, and I'm not being melodramatic here, just let the children know that I love them. I mean, I just didn't see any coming back from that. But bottom line was my coworkers assisted me. We contacted some physicians, an ambulance came. Turned out that it was, again, an intense migraine with aura. So for the most part, my migraines had been dormant for about a decade. But as I was told, the hormones as a result of carrying a female child is what, according to the physicians at the time, prompted the migraines to return. So then for a number of years, like I said, I was living with the acute migraine headaches, and they were impacting the family, impacting life. But my spouse, my husband, his support never wavered. And I remember one day really feeling down in that, I can't go to this function, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I was actually complaining to my mother-in-law about it, and I love her dearly. And she reminded me, she said, Tracy, David, my husband's name, she said, David knew you were sick when he asked you to marry him. And she said, so it may not feel like it, but when you two stood before your family and friends and loved ones in the sanctity of marriage, those vows of in sickness and in health, or as much as a lot of people want to dismiss them and put them on the back burner, she said, I know my son, and he meant that sincerely. And as you can see, to this day, he's still living and abiding by that.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow. So he has been there for you throughout the migraine, throughout the difficult times. What has he said to you? Any sort of quotes that you could share with us? Comments on supporting you? How has that been for him? Any encouraging messages he's given you over the years? Anything that he has said?
Well, it's interesting that we lived through the migraines and then multiple sclerosis struck. And that was an entirely different animal, so to speak, than migraines, chronic, incurable disease that was going to be here with us for until the day when cure was found. And so I can remember telling him once we got a handle on the fact that, okay, this is MS and then it's going to impact the entire family situation. My children were 8 and 11 at the time of the diagnosis. And I was serious, April, when I told him, I said, okay, check it out. This is not what you signed up for. I'm going to give you a week to decide if are going to commit to this life and the way that it's going to look. If you say, no, babe, I can't do it, and you want out, then I'll let you go without any issues or qualms or things of that nature. But I also said, on the other hand, but if you decide with the decision that you're going to stay, then I want that commitment. I want you to be in this alongside me 100%. I don't want to throw anything back in my face or anything of that nature. Just make the commitment that you're going to be in this. I'm giving you that choice. It was funny because I was very serious walking around this week thinking, okay, is he thinking about it? Is he thinking about it? Is he thinking about it? And sure enough, when I said, okay, week's up, what's your decision? And he just kind of looked at me like, you're really, really, honey, really, no. If I haven't shown you anything, over the course of these however many years it had been at that point, 14 or 15 years, it's like we're in this together 100%. And yes, I will be your caregiver, your care partner, whatever it's called. We'll manage together. And so that's been our bond. And you ask if he's shared any personal words or things of that nature. He's a poet. My husband writes poetry. He has written several poems on the subject of me and life with multiple sclerosis and things of that nature. I would probably say is what really gives me great insight to some of the emotions that he happens to be feeling. But his most poignant poem that he's written that is available for public consumption was entitled The Thief. And it pretty much spoke to MS coming in and robbing our family of the life that we had originally had, but at the same time, letting it be known that came in and you made an effort to rob, but you just didn't realize that the door that you were knocking on was one of very, very strong, united family, and we're going to fight you, MS, to the fullest and continue to live our best life. And that's what we've been doing.
I love that. That is beautiful. I didn't know he was a writer. He was a poet. That is a wonderful way for him to express his feelings and what he's going through. I have also heard that you are a writer.
Yes, I am. I've always loved words. I dabbled in poetry early on in life and wrote numerous poems. But when I was diagnosed with MS and I found myself participating in support groups and things of that nature, and people would ask, what's your story? I found myself always going all the way back, just as I did here with you today, to those early years of adolescence, and I need to write this all down so it's there and available for public consumption. And I also realized that it would be a cathartic move for myself as well. So with that being said and done, I penned my medical memoir, and it is entitled When the Body Says No, A Learn, Laugh, Love Story. It is available on Amazon.com with my name, Tracy A. Todd. Again, When the Body Says No, A Learn, Laugh, Love Story. And my husband, as a matter of fact, the poem that I made mention of, his poem is included in this work here.
Oh.
Yes. I've made a point of trying to include each one of my children in the publication. My son is a photographer, so he was responsible for some of the artwork on the cover. My daughter wrote the foreword, and she's a writing major. My husband's poem. was included. So it's a family affair. It's a family condition. So it's a family living and family journey and family celebration of the life we've been given.
So I think we got more than what we came for with this interview. We heard the love story with your spouse, your significant other. We get to hear about the love of your children and along this MS journey for you. This is beautiful. I'm so excited to see this book and to read the poem and see the work that your children have done and to hear your story, to read about it as well. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you so very much for the positive message that you bring to the world each day with the spirit of good, and positivity and doing the very best what we have and recognizing that 9 times out of 10, some may consider it a stretch, but in many ways it's a blessing in that our eyes are open to that which really matters. So for all that you do.
Thank you, Tracy. So how can we get in touch with you if we have any questions, if we'd like to reach out to you, learn more about you?
Well, you can contact me on my website, which is my name, tracyatodd.com. So that's TRACY, middle initial A as in author, artist, and advocate for multiple sclerosis. So Tracy A. Todd, T as in Tom, O-D-D as in David. So yes, you can reach me at tracyatodd.com. I'm on Facebook, same name, Tracy A. Todd. Just reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you for being on the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, come and follow us on iTunes or leave us a review. We'd greatly appreciate that. We can also be found on Twitter at SL3Limitless or at aprilmorenophd.com/podcast. Have a great day and take good care.